Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a 3D paper gazebo. This is what it looks like. All you need for this is grid paper, tape, and scissors. So the first step is to cut out a square that's 18 grid units by 18 grid units. And you're going to cut out 2 of these squares, and on each of them you're going to cut out 4 small squares like shown here, both 3 grid units by 3 grid units, and you're going to space them out evenly so that there are 3 grid units pointing out of each square. So like shown, you can see if you're looking at these bottom squares, there are 3 grid units below each of them, and then 3 grid units on each side of them leading off the square. And the next step is to cut out 4 squares that are each 12 grid units by 12 grid units. So these here, so we've got 4 squares and they're each 12 grid units by 12 grid units. And on each of them, make a mark on every third line vertically so you can see that they're marked with a pen. And on each of the 4 squares, we're going to fold along these lines. So like this, and then you're going to tape the ends together. So like this, and then you get a tube. So you're going to do that with the other 3 squares, and then it'll result in 4 of these tubes. Now you've got your 4 tubes, and now what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your squares that you made earlier, which is 18 grid units by 18 grid units, and you're going to attach these tubes to these square cutouts. So I'll show you one for an example. So it's gonna fit on like this. So and you're going to do that the same with these other edges. And then you'll do the same with the other 3 tubes. So this is what it should look like after you've attached all 4 tubes to the square. And now what you're going to do is you're going to turn it over, and you're going to do the same as before with your other square. So you're going to attach these 4 tubes to these cutouts in your other square. So this is what it should look like once you've attached the 4 tubes to both squares. So you just attach the second square, and then this is what it should look like when it's done. Now, you're going to cut out 4 triangles, and in each triangle, you're going to draw a line that goes across 18 grid units, and then at the starting point where you drew the line, you're going to go up 13 grid units, and then go right 9 grid units, and put your pen at that point and use a ruler and start at that point and draw all the way down to here, the start of where you drew the 18 grid unit line, and then do the same for the other side. Start at this spot and then use a ruler and draw a line to the other end of the 18 grid unit line, which will result in this triangle. And you're going to do that 4 times in total. That results in 4 triangles. So now you've cut out all 4 of your triangles. And now what you're going to do is, you're going to go back to this. You're going to choose one of the squares. And then what you're going to do is, for each triangle, you're going to attach the side that is 18 grid units to one of the edges of the square. So now you've attached all 4 of your triangles to this square. And now you're just going to tip this over, and for each triangle, for their neighboring edges, like these two, you're going to tape them together. And you're going to do that with all the other triangles with their edges that meet together when you pull them up, and you're just going to tape them together. So this is what it will look like once you've attached all 4 triangles together. So you get this. And now what you're going to do is, you are going to cut out 4 rectangles, each 10 grid units by 18 grid units. So there are 4 of these. And in each one, you're going to cut out 4 small rectangles that are each 2 grid units by 6 grid units. And they're going to be spaced out evenly so that in between each rectangle, there's going to be 2 grid units. So what you're going to do is you're going to go 2 grid units this way, cut out a rectangle, 2 grid units this way, cut out a rectangle, 2 grid units this way, cut out a rectangle, 2 grid units this way, cut out a rectangle, and then there's 2 grid units left. And you also want to make sure that above each rectangle there are 2 grid units, and below each rectangle there are 2 grid units. So it's centered vertically because there are 2 grid units above the rectangles and below the rectangles. So I've marked the rectangles with a pen so that you know where to cut out. So you're just going to cut out 4 rectangles in each of these big rectangles. So now you've cut out the 4 rectangles on each of your bigger rectangles. So this is what they look like. And what you're going to do is you're going to take each rectangle and attach the longest side of the rectangle to the edge of the square here. Now I've attached all of the rectangles to this square. And now what you're going to do is you're going to cut out 16 rectangles that are all 16 grid units by 2 grid units. And what you're going to do for each of them is, so I made a mark on the parts to fold. So you're going to start at one end and go 6 grid units this way and fold along there, then go another 2 grid units to the right, fold along there, then go 6 grid units to the right and fold along there, and then attach the edges together. And this is what you end up with. So you're going to do this 16 times in total. So you've got 16 of these rings. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take one of them, and I'll just move these aside. So you're going to take one of your squares and you're going to attach it to one of the cutouts on the rectangles. So you'll attach it through like this. So I'll show you how to attach the rectangles. So now you've attached all of the rings to the rectangular cutouts. And now what you're going to do is, just like the triangles, you're going to take the rectangles, pull them up together, and then attach the edges that are beside each other. So once you've done that, you're going to cut out a square that's 22 grid units by 22 grid units, and you're going to cut out another square in it that's 18 grid units by 18 grid units, and like before, you're going to make sure the square is centered so that all the way around there's 2 square grid units this way, 2 grid units this way, 2 grid units this way, and 2 grid units this way. So once you've cut out your square, you're going to take this and you're going to attach each of these edges of the rectangles to the inner edges of this square, so within the 18 grid square. So this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge. So once you've attached the square to these rectangles, you're going to cut out 4 more rectangles that are each 12 grid units by 22 grid units. And in each of them, you're going to cut out 4 rectangles that are the same size as the rectangles here. The only difference is that from this rectangle to the edge, it'll be 4 grid units instead of 2 grid units, like this, because each of these rectangles is longer in length by 4 grid units. And from the rectangle down below, it'll be 4 grid units because the height is taller by 2 grid units. So once you've cut out your 4 rectangles in each of the bigger rectangles, what you're going to do is you're going to take each rectangle and attach these rectangle cutouts to these cutouts here. So once you've attached the rectangles to the cutouts on the gazebo, what you're going to do now is the edge of this square and the edge of this rectangle are going to be taped together. So this edge and this edge are going to be taped together. Same with these 2 edges, these 2 edges, and these 2 edges. And once you've done that, you're going to attach the rectangles together. So these 2 edges will be taped together, these 2 edges, these 2 edges, and these 2 edges. So once you've attached all your rectangles to the gazebo, the final step is covering this bottom part. So once you've covered this bottom part, your gazebo is complete. And you're going to cut out a square that's 22 grid units by 22 grid units. And you're going to attach the edges of this square to these edges. Here, 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 and here. So now we are done our gazebo. We've attached our square at the bottom, and this is what it looks like when it's done. So this is how to make a 3D paper gazebo. Bye for now.